Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. I'm excited to be joined by my co-host, Lee Bush. She is an actress and she's also served as a host. Lee, tell us a little bit about some of the projects and things you've done.
Well, hi, welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Moshe. I'm really excited to be here with you too and all the guests that we're going to get to talk to today. I have had the very pleasure and privilege of being in some exciting projects, mostly TV. I did start as a model in New York with Ford and Wilhelmina for many years, and then advanced into doing theater and moved to LA to pursue my film and TV dreams, which are still coming to fruition, so I'm enjoying that journey. But I've been in Blackish, lots of other TV shows, Grey's Anatomy, to name two, so I'll leave it there.
Sure, no, that sounds great. And I'm from New York, so I love the fire, the passion, the fashion, and also certainly
never
film.
give up,
Sure.
never give up.
Exactly, certainly. And then Music and Medicine, it's a show obviously that sort of talks about some of the health issues that are faced by our artists and musicians, and we think it's a catalyst for discussion for the community's health at all. What's your background and familiarity with health as relates to some issues that maybe you know about or may have encountered?
Great question. I'll just say how I was inspired to participate in your project, Music and Medicine. Great title, and I thought, okay, that's pretty catchy. What's going on there? But anything that has to do with music, I mean, I'm an artist, so anything that has to do with creativity, I am interested in. And then medicine, I thought, okay, that's an interesting combination. But medicine is important to me, obviously, as a mom and as a woman, making sure that I'm healthy and that my daughter has been raised with healthy habits. But my dad was a PA, a physician's assistant, and so that was something that the conversations around our dinner table at night were about the cases he was working on, the patients he was dealing with, and he had such a passion and commitment to being of service, and that really resonated with me, and I've been able to raise my daughter with those same values and contribute to the community in different community service endeavors that I've been involved in. And it always makes me laugh when I think about it. One of the things that he did to try to encourage me to become a doctor was he had me watch him perform a surgery on one of his patients' knees. He used to do a lot of workers' comp cases, and somebody had come into the clinic that night. Yes, I happened to be there with him one night after school. He would pick me up sometimes and I'd go hang out with him at work and do my homework at the clinic. And someone came in through the ambulance with his leg almost just kind of knee was hanging out. And I'm just like, oh. And he said, Mary Alice, come in here and work, watch me, you know. That's my first name, Mary Alice. And I said, no, I kept resisting. He said, no, sit down, it's okay. And I watched, and I 2-3 seconds, and I just bolted out of there.
This won't be a field I'm going into.
I know, I said, no, Dad, I don't think I'm gonna be a doctor. But I was so inspired by his passion to be of service and his talent, and he was highly respected in his field, so definitely an inspiration there.
Right, and I should say that was at a time where physician assistants weren't as well known, what they do, and even today. So I should just clarify that while they're physician assistants, they are capable of running clinics or doing surgery. They have a lot of hands-on training, 2 years in medical school, and that's amazing. And like you said, he wound up being a pillar of the community at a time where this was the 70s?
Yes.
A lot of people may not have known who that is.
Exactly, or known about that as a field, sure.
Yeah, amazing. Well, we definitely look forward to learning more about you as we get to work together, and I can't wait to interview our first guest.
Me too.
Sure. Thanks so much. Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. I'm excited to be joined by two wonderful and lovely ladies. My co-host here, extraordinaire, Lee Bush. Hi there.
Hey there.
Okay. And also Geneen White.
Hi, everyone.
Geneen's a gospel extraordinary artist, and we are so delighted to be able to have her sit down and really sort of roll back the clock a little bit, talk about where you grew up, how you grew up, and really got exposed to music and then developed your sound. I'm just going to jump right in there. Just tell us a little bit about the beginning, some of those early years.
Sure. Well, I'm a PK, a pastor's kid, born and raised in the church. I know that story is very familiar with most, artists. I sang in the choirs. As young as 6 years old, all the way up until today, actually. I still minister at my church with the praise team. And I don't know, when I was 6, I joined the little kids choir, and I guess the choir director saw something in me, and he gave me a solo. It's a song called "Dear Jesus, I Love You" by the Hawkins.
Oh, okay.
And it was a song that Tremaine used to lead, and so never sung before, just don't even know why he gave me the solo. And I started to sing, and then I started to see the people's reaction, and I was just like, whoa, like I like this. You know what I mean?
Right, positive feedback.
And then even at a young age, I could feel the power of God, using me to really bless and minister to people. I saw somebody crying and saw someone lifting their hands, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. So right then and there, I knew that was something that I wanted to do. I think it was, in the beginning, it was just, the attention of it all and the feeling of it all,
Sure.
And not knowing that this was truly God's purpose for my life. So I just kept singing in choirs and praise teams, oftentimes way too young to be a part, but they would let me come to rehearsals and at least, sing along in rehearsal because they saw a gift in me. Many choir directors and psalmists and leaders and artists, they would just let me come and hang out, even if it was in the studio, let me hang out. And I just began to develop from there. Yeah.
That is an incredible story of your humble beginnings as a gospel singer.
Mm-hmm.
So many artists start out that way.
Yes.
And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It's certainly, you're off to a great trajectory right now, and with your single, Praise Go Up, I just love, I was talking to Dr. Moshe about it earlier, because Jericho and Praise Go Up are such different songs. The dichotomy I loved, and I said, well, that's almost for like a mainstream market, but the praises go up. I'm like, that is down home school church, down home church. And I was like stomping my feet and praising the Lord while I was getting dressed, and I was like, yes. And I just listened to it so many times last night. It is so moving and so inspirational. And then the other one too. So how do you figure out what you're going to create?
What sound, yeah.
Did you write both songs?
Praises Go Up is a compilation of songs that are called public domain.
Okay.
And so those are songs that we don't know who wrote them, but we've just been singing them in church since forever. Yes, forever. And so most of that, I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord, and the very first song, There's a Storm Out on the Ocean, all of those songs were written way before I was born. So we just kind of credit that to public domain. And then the Yes, I'll Praise Him, that's an artist who passed away years ago, Orlando Draper. He used to have a big old choir. You might remember him. They had a Rat Pack. So it was Donald Lawrence, Hezekiah Walker, Mark Hubbard, and Orlando Draper. And so Orlando passed, but he's the one who created that song. And then the Praises Go Up, that back portion. I was going through a rough period in my life, and I used to come home after church and just watch YouTube, and there was a particular church, Cooper Temple in Florida, and they were known for their band, and so everybody would rush home and see what they did for Sunday night service on YouTube.
Okay.
And this one particular night, the First Lady was ministering, and she was just flown in the spirit, and she just started to sing, when the praises go up, the blessings come down. And it was a completely different tempo and a completely different sound, but it just began to minister to me where I was, and it brought healing. So that next time I got a chance to do praise and worship, I wanted to add that little piece in, so I taught it to the musicians, and it just kind of picked up and sped it up. The guy, one of the guys came in and got on the organ that wasn't at rehearsal, and it just sped up really fast, and I was just like, what is happening? What is that? This is not what we learned. But it was so anointed and so powerful that we just went with it, and it turned into Praises Go Up.
Yes, the Spirit was leading all of you. And anytime, as soon as you said the organ came in, you knew
Yes.
what it was going to be. Down home church.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And it makes it so beautiful and so soulful.
Yeah, praise
so
God.
thank you
Praise
so much
God.
for the inspiration that it just gave me in the short time that I've been listening to it. And you just taught me so much about so many other gospel artists that I'm not familiar with. So thank you for that.
Well, Hezekiah Walker, I mean,
That one, I know.
I was about to say, he's one of the staples as far as
The other
choir
names.
music. And Tremaine, just the Hawkins. Those are some of the more sturdy heavyweights in the gospel industry. They've definitely had an influence on me, and so I wanted to pull from all different levels and age groups, and what's so crazy is we had Jason White, who produced the single, and then he had a younger millennial producer, Jan Hunter Jr., come in, and they got together and they made the single together, the music of the single together. So you have an old school sound in the beginning, but then it kind of vamps out into a millennial sound with the bells and the whistles and all that stuff. So I think it reaches everybody. I think it touches everybody. So that's what we were going for.
Sure. And I wanted to tease that out a little bit. For some artists, they write their own. For others, like you said, they may do a revival of an old song. Yeah. How do you sort of like to pick out, okay, this is going to be the song that I want to have on an album? Because I know, kicking back to what you said about Jericho, that definitely was going to be a very new, you really thought about it. It was a very spiritual journey as you developed that song.
Yeah. Well, as far as Praises Go Up, most of this first album that's about to be released are songs that I did for praise and worship that everyone was just asking for. They were like, where can we find it? Where can we get it? And where worship is concerned, I'm a little bit more open to God to use me to flow whatever he wants me to sing. It's not so much as a request, can you do that song? I normally just am very prayerful and I ask God, what do you want to hear? It's all about him, but they began to ask for certain songs when they would ask me to come and lead worship. And so I told my husband, I said, hey, I think maybe we need to start recording these songs so that people can just listen to them when they want to, be blessed. And Praises Go Up was one of those songs. I initially, because it was such a worshipful moment in the industry. You had Tasha Cobbs, you had, there's another artist, Brian Courtney. Wilson, yes, and a lot of other, even churchy people were going worship mode.
Right.
And so I sent it to Andre Russell at KJLH. He's a good, dear friend of mine, and he has supported our music over the years. Me and my husband have written for many artists, and he's always been right there to support us and play our music. So I was very prayerful. And I said, okay, I'm going to go with this worship song. And God kept telling me, no, that's not the song. It's the churchy one. And I was like, are you sure?
Right. I'm listening to you, but I know what the industry is
demanding right now. Outside of it being a ministry, it's also business. You know what I mean? And I was like,
I'm going to check with you guys.
Right. I was like, because you might not be sure, because I know you're God. But that's, so I questioned it to the point where I sent an unmastered version of the song to Andre. And I said, hey, I'm getting ready to release my first single. It's finally my turn to, do something for my album. And I just want you to take a listen to it. Tell me what you think. I know that this is what's going on in the industry, but this is what God is saying. And he emailed me immediately, and he said, not only is it what we need right now, he said, I'm playing it on Sunday. And I was like, wait, it's not even mixed, it's not even mastered, it's not anything, it's not ready, don't get me in trouble. And he was like, well, whatever you need to do, you need to hurry up and do it, because I'm playing it on Sunday. So I called my husband and I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I said it to Andre. He wants to play it now. And so he was like, so he was mastering the actual version at the time. So he sent another version to Andre and said, if you're going to play it, play the mastered version. And the rest is really history. Like, it just blew up.
And when was that?
This was May of 2018.
Very
yes, May of 2018. We actually recorded the song in 2016. And then I didn't send it to Andre until May of 2018. And it's still doing very well. And we're here in 2021. Yes, so God knows what he's doing. It pays to obey.
Sometimes
I like that. That's
double check on him sometimes.
Yes.
I like that little slogan. That's a nice little soundbite. She said it pays to obey.
Yeah, it pays to obey.
One other little footnote I wanted to tease out, because sometimes we may presume the viewers know, but just tease out that mix and master, because what does that mean in the industry?
You can go into the studio and just record raw. You can get a microphone and just sing. But when you're in the studio and you're just singing, a lot of times you have the musicians that have played their instruments, you have your vocals that you've recorded, and then you also have like the bells and whistles and the little percussions,
Right,
that they've recorded everything separately, so we've all done our part. Mixing is when you mix it all together. And then mastering is when you create it to where it can be put on the radio, or you create an ID for iTunes and all of that. So it's mastered down, kind of like squashed down to a perfect sound and a perfect pitch, and they label it as an ID. And then you know all the songs on the album, so you have maybe 1 through 10 songs. Those are all IDs. So you master all of the IDs together, and that's where pretty much the money is, the masters. Yeah, that's why you hear people fighting over masters all the time. I want my masters. Yes, that's why, because it is the crux of everything that you've worked on.
A culmination.
Yes,
of your hard
and it's been
work.
mixed and and it's been perfected basically to where now it's time to sell. And a lot of times the radio, the record labels would keep the masters, you know, so you would have those raw mixes, you know, where, and then it's cleanup as well, you know, you can sing, but sometimes you need a little tune up here and a little tune up there, so yeah, that's what mixing and mastering is.
I heard you say as a child you were, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were leading the choir as a child, or doing some teaching in the choir?
I was singing when I was 6 years old. I just led a song, but I have, at 15, I did direct a choir.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why, you know, we migrated to California when I was 13, and we joined a small church, Bethany of Long Beach. And the pastor there, he saw something in me, and they needed somebody to direct the choir. They had a musician, but they didn't have anyone to direct. Okay. And so actually, I used to direct to tracks, because the musician, I don't know if he got married or he moved or something, so before he left, he recorded all of these songs, just the music, and I had to learn the track, and I would direct the choir to the track. So I just think God was just kind of preparing me all along, step by step, and developing skills that I didn't know I had.
Sure,
And putting you in that right place at the right time, because you said someone saw something in you, so that was the pastor or the musical director was
Every
leading.
church I went to, I just would join the choir. I just loved music, and I would get in the choir, and they would say, Janine, we know you sing, come try this song. And I would be very shy and just very withdrawn, but I would try it because, you know, I knew that this is what God wanted me to do. And I didn't really feel confident or like I was the greatest singer, but I just felt like God was going to bless it, you know. And that's how it started. Now I'm a little bit more confident, and, you know, I'm writing, and I've got a little something under my belt where I'm a little bit more comfortable.
Sure, right.
But yeah, it was just a path that God put me on, and thank God for people. Very grateful to people who saw the gift and created a platform for me to use it, you know.
But like you said, everybody obeying, because they were where they were supposed to be able to identify your gift and help usher you to be able to bless us all with your incredible music. I was so inspired watching both videos and listening to both songs. They were just great.
Thank you.
And I wanted to tease out on a little note that you started on, which was being a pastor's kid. It is easy, potentially, to go down either type of pathway, sort of a life of potential rebellion where it's like, okay, I've had many artists tell me and people who ultimately went into the ministry, I did not want to be in the church. It called me, ultimately that's where I wound up, but I did everything 360. And those that somehow they're inculcated with that spirit, with a more reverential respect. How did that look for you, that journey? How did that come about?
I love church. I always loved church. I am the baby of 4. I have an older brother, and then I have 2 older sisters. My brother's the oldest, so he went down that journey. He's in church now, but he went down that journey where church was just not for him, and we were a family that was forced to go, you know. But me and my sisters, we loved church. We used to sing in the choirs and all of that stuff. And then my middle sister, she loved God, but she didn't really love church. She was just like, I'm not really feeling church so much as I am feeling my relationship with God. But my older sister and I, we really just kind of jumped in and began to work in the ministry. And, you know, my mom and dad were teachers, and they would travel and train in the churches, you know, wherever they needed seminars and classes to build. And so I loved it. Then as I got older and I started getting interested in boys and going to high school, I was too afraid to leave the church. So I did my dirt in the church.
Just being honest. And I absolutely love keeping it real here. And we need to, right? Because it's still technically Saturday.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would try to, and it didn't really work for me, but I tried. Like, all, my friends and in school or whatever, they were like, let's go to the club. And I'd be like, yes, let's go to the club. And I would go to the club and I would just be like, this is so boring. What is happening here? So I was the one that had the car. So I would be like, okay, if I take you guys to the club, then you guys got to go to church with me in the morning. So that's how that turned out. And but it just wasn't, I don't know. I think I've just already engrafted in. And,
and you were saving souls.
Yeah.
Right, doing missionary work.
Missionary work. Because I would go in and I was really excited. We would get all cute. And I'm thinking, yes, tonight's the night that I'm really going to like and enjoy this. And I mean, literally, 10 minutes I would be there and I was just like, I wonder if they're having choir rehearsal tonight. What are we singing on Sunday, So, but, as time went on, I definitely began to develop my own personal relationship with God and be committed to Him and what He had for me. And I do know that many artists that, and family members of mine, they started out not wanting to be in church, and kind of like my brother, we have a tight, really close, knit family at this point because of COVID. We Zoom, we have family prayer every Thursday, and to see just how far all of us have come spiritually is really a blessing. Everything just came full circle. Yeah.
Yes, we've been talking a lot about how COVID has had a lot of positive results in our lives in so many areas, and has really forced us to take a hard look at some of the conditions that we're living in, behaviors, relationships, and how to change those for the better. So that's a great outcome to have as a result of COVID for you. I was curious about how you are approaching your music career, given that there is a lot of mainstream versus, how gospel are you going to be, how mainstream are you going to be? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, we have a production company. It's called White Throne Productions, me and my husband, Jason White. And in that production company, we began to do television. And so we kind of have had the experience of having the industry side of what we do, as well as the spiritual church side of what we do. And so our company would vocally contract singers for certain shows, mostly the competition shows, so like American Idol, X Factor. We've done the Grammys, American Music Awards, and that came through what we call our godfather in the industry, Ricky Minor. He is one of the phenomenal music directors, we call him the musical director in the industry. He's notably known for being Whitney Houston's music director, and now he's just, whatever show you can possibly think of, he's done it, and he was the musical director. And recently he just won an Oscar for his work on the Oscars, being a musical. I think he's done it twice or three times, being the musical director for that. So he saw these little kids that could sing, and he needed a choir for American Idol. He was trying to get the gig at the time, and his first show was the Christmas special with Ruben, Fantasia, and Kelly. And so they're very churchy within themselves. Right. And so they needed a choir. And someone said, oh, I know exactly who you should call. You should call Jason White. He's an excellent choir director. So we pulled together this choir. We were so young and just loud and ruddy. And
but dynamic.
But dynamic. We could sing.
And anointed. Yes. Anointed. Look at what he accomplished.
So what Ricky did was he just looked at us and he was like, oh, no, you are not coming in here like that. But, most people would have just either used us for that event and then canceled us, never used us again. But Ricky took us under his wing, and he groomed us, and he made sure we knew if you're on time, you're late. You know what I mean? And he was like, and lose some weight, and and get yourself together, and eat right, and be quiet, and he was just really grooming us, getting that whip out after us. And because of that, when we got calls on our own, or when he got a show that he couldn't do, he would call us to do it because he had basically mentored us, but we got the lesson, and so. Our company basically was the balance between the church sound and the industry sound. We sung behind many artists, hip hop artists, country artists, you know, alternative artists. Then when the Grammys and the award shows came, you know, there'd be a plethora of genres to sing behind as well. So where it affected me personally, I always felt like my music was a little different. It was always, I could not put me in a box. So being in the church and being a worship leader, I felt confined a lot. You know, every house has a different sound. You know, like every pastor has a different way of worship that he condones or feels comfortable with. And so mine was a little bit churchy and more traditional at our church. And but when I would write, I would hear something completely different, you know. And so I started to write for other artists. And then when it was my turn, I decided to start out with what people knew about me, you know, which was more of the worshipful, churchy sound. So all of the songs that everybody kept asking for, that's what I put on this first album. But the second album, which we've already started, is a little bit more Neen, a little bit more Janine, and it's more Jericho, more CCM worship, so like Natalie Grant, and one of my favorite writers, and it's a couple, Katie and Bryant Torwald, and they write some of the most amazing worship ballads, and they wrote a song called Holy Spirit, they wrote a song called Lover of Your Presence, and there's one other song I can't remember right now, but, and then my mentor, Deidre Cadden. Deidre Cadden, he's always out of the box, and you know, he's always going to do something that's just going to catch people's attention, like, oh my God, what is he doing next, you know? So I started to kind of look at the freedom that he had in his own ministry. Born, bred, and raised in a church. He's a preacher as well, and he, you know, his dad was a pastor as well. But when it came to him and his self-expression and just the liberty that he had to create and sing, he never was intimidated by what people would say. And so I started to kind of glean from that. And so this next album is, the first album isn't even released yet, so I'm already talking about the next one. I've already moved on.
Finish next.
That goes to one of our next questions, of course, is what's coming up next.
Yes. Well, the first album is definitely coming out, which again is, you know, praise and worship songs that people can enjoy and be blessed by. And then there are teasers like Jericho and another song called Do Free that is a little bit more crossover, and have a crossover sound to it. And but everyone who really knows me knows, oh yeah, all of that's Janine, you know. So they're starting to embrace it all, which I'm very grateful for, because a lot of times you can present something different and people are like, oh, she's trying to be something she's not. But those who have followed me know this journey has been that all along. So
yes. No, and that goes to us as individuals. I think there's so many different facets to us that make us who we are as an individual. So you're speaking to different parts of you that resonate with you, that have been cultivated in you from a child, and now the opportunities you've had to be a leader in the church and minister, and you're still ministering, whether you're writing and singing or working in the choir actually, and being part of the directorship there. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, God is good. Jericho, speaking of COVID, and you know, we were talking earlier about you know, kind of being locked away, and when you, I was sharing with Lee that I feel like COVID put everybody on an even playing field in the industry, where you had the big I's and little U's. Now you just had us. You know, you had us. We're all trying to survive. We're all trying to figure it out. We're all trying to stay healthy. We are all locked down, can't travel, can't really do anything. So you really had to go within and be creative. And whatever came out of you is truly the authentic essence of who you really are. And so Jericho, I had just kind of shut down. Even before COVID, I kind of shut down for a couple of months, and just wanted to figure out my life and figure out where I wanted to go next. We were preparing for the Stellars. The Stellars got canceled. That's when I was going to premiere this first album. And so I was just like, oh, what do I do now? And then COVID happened, and God was like, everybody just shuts down now. That's what we do. And so coming back to social media maybe 5 or 6 months later, I just wanted something creative, and I literally went to the folder of this album, this main album, and I was digging through the songs, and God said, no, that's not the one. Go to the album that is not what everybody wants you to do. Go to the other folder. And so I dug in there. There was Jericho. There was a lot of urban stuff. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yes. So he said, listen to Jericho. I listened to Jericho. And this is just how God talks to me. You know, yes. He was like, listen to Jericho. And so I listened to Jericho, and the lyrics were perfect. For the time. For the time, it was just absolutely perfect. And I was like, oh my God, I see why, you know, this song couldn't go on the album. It was supposed to be set apart for this time. So I just wanted to be creative, and I was coming back to social media, and I wanted to be creative, and I said, hey, why don't we do a video? I asked a friend, did he know a videographer? He did. We shot 2 videos in one day, and it just flowed. We were in and out in 6 hours.
Wow.
Yes.
That's unheard of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was hair, it was makeup, it was wardrobe, and it was kind of like a room like this where it was just a white wall and a green wall, and I don't know, just the creativity was flowing, and we just kind of kept it pure. And the guy just so happened to have some Black Lives Matter footage in his camera, and he was like, this will be perfect for Jericho, and we'll put it on the wall where you're talking about, you know, standing together and fighting, and you know, God fighting for us. And it was God ordained.
Talk about perfect
totally
timing.
ordained.
It can't be more perfect.
Absolutely.
If He ordains it, it will happen.
Yeah.
I wanted to run back though to one concept that came to mind when you were talking about the choirs and things like that, and this juxtaposition not only of your music but also a lot of people's lives when it comes to the industry. It seems sometimes that artists will sort of run back to the church and get that church sound, and I mean not necessarily physically going in there, but as you talked about American Idol, different music genres that they borrowed a lot from hip hop, of course, and tried to take it over, but they've also done that many times to the church, and to a certain extent it seems like your music can sort of really cross those different generations. Where do you think the blessing and the challenge lies in that?
Well, I think the blessing and the challenge is that the market is so flooded right now with all different types of sounds and all different types of artists. The creativity is at an all-time high because of COVID, and the appreciation level has broadened, whereas you just used to have some staple artists that stood out, and you're like, oh, she's amazing, you know, Beyonce is amazing. And she, of course, she still stands out, like she, you know, she's gonna stand out no matter what, but you had these powerful staple artists that just kind of took over the charts and took over the market, whereas now a lot more visible artists are coming on the scene and doing videos, and we're all glued to social media more so than buying, you know, records and listening to the voice. You're now seeing people before you actually even hear their music, and you get to know them, you get to know their personality, and so you can relate. And I think the challenge is trying to relate to and find your audience, you know what I mean? Because the audience is the world now, whereas before, if you liked R&B music, then you went and bought R&B music and you would watch R&B videos or whatever. But now you're on social media and the world is your audience. So what do you present to the world? And I often tell people, stay authentic to you.
Yes.
Don't go over here and try to be that, and don't go over there and try to be that, unless that is who you are authentically, you know. That's what's gonna stand. That's what's gonna penetrate through everything else and reach who you're supposed to reach. I feel like there's a certain group, you know, as ministers and people that sing about God and about God's love and about His mercy, there's a certain group that is assigned to you, certain people that you're supposed to sing to and minister to. And oftentimes you miss who you're supposed to minister to because you're trying to be something else, and go into another audience. So I try to stay true to who God has called me to, whether that be in the church or out of the church. And you're gonna get the same person, no matter what.
Well, to your point about how COVID caused us all to sort of, you and I were talking about how it gave everyone opportunity to really reflect and sort of ask themselves, what is their purpose? So what is our purpose? What are we supposed to be doing? We're sitting here shut in, locked down, locked out. What am I going to do with all this time on my hands? So we all know that a lot of creative energy has been flowing, and so much is coming out of that this time that will be such a benefit to all of us. And so what I think I'm hearing you saying is that it created a more diverse pool of creativity and therefore music for us to all tap into. Whatever suits you or whatever you're looking for, it's there. Is that kind of what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely, it is there. And I also feel like what you were saying, while you're on lockdown, you are definitely doing some introspective look inside and saying, okay, what really do I want to say? You know, not what's going to be popular or what the theme is for whatever was, you know, the latest, but what do I really want to say, because my mom has COVID, or my family member has COVID, or just the land is on lockdown and people are dying. Like, what is important? You know, what is important to me? What is important to the world right now? And I think we all just kind of, we started getting hit. It wasn't just COVID. It was, you know, Black Lives Matter, and then it was the, you know, the political reign that we were dealing with. It was just a lot going on, and so I think we all really felt like it doesn't make sense to just be frivolous right now.
Sure.
You know,
Right.
and so we really did shut down and try to figure out, hey, like, how can I contribute to this world and make it a better place? And that means you have to be a better person.
Yes.
So for me, it meant be quiet for about 6 months and fix whatever needed to be fixed, allow God to minister to you and to heal areas, so that when I do release you and release this new music, then you're ready to be that for someone else, you know. But yeah, that I am saying that there was I feel like worldwide there was an introspective look of what's really important, and what, if I have a major platform, what do I really want to say right now, and what will be received?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because people are going to be like,
right.
are you really talking about Cocoa Puffs and beans right now when everybody's dying around, you know?
Right.
So, you know, what will be received, and as well as what's important to me, you know? So I think that Jericho is definitely something that just kind of shared with people where I am, you know, believing and standing that these walls of racism, these walls of injustice, this virus, this pandemic, it's coming down. It's coming down, and it's coming down through the power of God and the power of unity. Yes. You know, us coming together and fighting together and standing and believing that God sees us and He knows what we're dealing with. And just hold on. He's coming. Yeah, they're coming down.
It's such a soulful anthem of overcoming. And if I understand correctly, though, your father was actually in healthcare.
Yes.
And so there was some healing going on in terms of people's lives, because he's a cardiologist.
Absolutely.
So that's not just a you know, fly-by-night thing. No. This was something literally you all were dealing with all the time.
Absolutely. My dad was one of the I won't say one of the first Black cardiologists, but he definitely was in the 60s, 70s era when not a lot of Black men were embraced in the medical field. You know what I mean?
So it's still groundbreaking,
Absolutely.
pioneering for us as a people of color.
Sure. Yes, and God just gave him favor, and he just kind of stood out in his classes and stood out in his field, and blessed us. We were very blessed as kids, and so even the racism there that we dealt with as kids, because we lived mostly in the suburbs, predominantly, you know, Caucasian neighborhoods, and I graduated from a school where there was 2,200 kids and only 32 Black students. So that's pretty much the vein of, you know, our childhood and our upbringing. Church is where we got, you know, and our family, you know, is where we kind of
got to use your soul card.
Yes, the Black card. She said it for me.
Got it in there. We love that here.
So you know, the challenges of that, we dealt with it, you know, just in school. But my dad dealt with it a lot, you know, going to medical school, but God favored him and pushed him to where he actually had his own private practice for maybe 3 or 4 years. And we were blessed, but we weren't spoiled. Well, my dad and my mom, they didn't play that. They were like, oh no, they made sure that we were humble, you know. And I feel like God used my dad in the church as a doctor, because he was able to not only heal spiritually with the Word of God and the ministry on that side, but he was also able to help the sick in the church, you know, that were dealing with diabetes and heart disease. And often they would have seminars and different things and have blood drives and, you know, just really connect the two together, because they really are combined. If you're whole in your physical body, you also have to be whole in your emotional and spirit man, because they both are detrimental to your livelihood. So yeah, it was a little rough at times, and a lot of times he would come home from work and he would just woo-saw, you know,
Right, sure.
and it would sound like him and my mom were arguing, but we would never hear my mom. It would just be and he was just kind of decompressing from the day, because you can't do that there, you know. And so my mom was like, yes, Gene, yes, I understand. And then it would just get quiet, and then he would just get up and start all over again. Or jog. He would jog 12 miles every day. Wow. 6 miles up, 6 miles back every day. And so it really helped us. And it definitely helped me in my own personal ministry to it broadened us. We didn't just listen to gospel music. We listened to jazz and different things. We didn't just go to church. We were in tap and ballet, and we played volleyball, and I was in a jazz choir, and I was in an opera choir that toured in my high school. We toured all over California, and we did different things. We went on vacations, you know, and learned different things. Our main spot was Florida every year. So we were well-rounded, and I feel like it's because God favored my parents, and I don't know why. You know, none of us are really worthy of the blessings of God, but we were definitely favored and blessed, and I feel like it bleeds into who I am today. Yeah.
Which bleeds into your music, I'm
Yes,
sure, and what you write. I love the way you talked about your dad being the cardiologist in the church as well, because there you have the music and the medicine.
Sure, right.
Because you have
Exactly.
the choir and all that you were doing, participating, and then your father's right there helping in a medicinal way as well.
Absolutely.
By contributing to the congregation who have, you know, different disease states. He was helping to address them, helping to improve their quality of life.
Absolutely.
And wow, what a...
And one thing about my dad is when the medicine would run out, when he was trying to save someone's life or someone had coded, you know, and nothing was working, he would put that equipment down and he would go to praying. Right. And many of times people would have come back to life. And this has been, you know, documented and notated about him. Even in the hospitals that he worked in, they were like, oh, go call Dr. Lundy. They would like call him on the intercom, call Dr. Lundy, that we're losing this one. And they would call him and he would start praying. So it all meshed together, you know, just like she said.
Sure.
Yeah.
And as you may know, this has been studied scientifically. So
Absolutely.
we always say, you know, our church prays and if everybody's praying for someone, but it's been shown and analyzed that the spirit of prayer not only is healing, but has saved many people's lives. Just the fact that they have a praying family or people praying for them. Yeah. And then your mom takes ill.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about how that was paradoxical.
Sure. So in 1994, well, I was in LA, and you know, I was engaged, and we broke off our engagement, and I was just devastated. And my dad called me one day, and he was like, "How are you?" And I was just like, I was just holding it in all this time, and you know, finally I let him know, you know, that we had broken off the engagement, and I was just really hurting, and he had never heard me that distraught, so he came and got me. He was like, I'm coming to get my baby. So he and my mom, they flew there and drove me back home. So in 1994, I was in Ohio. I was back in Ohio, and my mom, she's a very spiritual woman, and she kept kind of insinuating or making these little comments like she wasn't going to be here long. And so I kept saying, stop saying that, you know, why are you saying that? And she was like, oh, you know, me and God got a thing going on, and, you know, I'm kind of ready. She was only 53, you know, which is very young when you think about it. And I was like, ready for what? Like, you know, but they had started a journey very young, you know. So she would say that here and there. Me and my fiance at the time worked it out, and he came back in November and got me. And he drove me back, and before we left, my mom pulled him to the side and told him something like, take care of my baby, you know, something like that. And she was eating a pork chop. She's eating a pork chop, and you know, we were like strictly against pork at that time. She didn't really eat pork. We didn't really condone pork because my dad is a cardiologist, you know. We wanted to stay kind of healthy now, bacon every now and then, you know. Right. But for the most part, we tried to stay away from it. And I saw her eating a pork chop, and I was like, why are you eating that? And she was like, oh, I'm just eating the things that, you know, I've always wanted to eat. And we had just had this big old birthday celebration for her. I was like, all right, now, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do for you for the next birthday, so we need you healthy. And she was like, oh, there's not going to be a next birthday. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, it's time for me to go. So I go. They're going to come, a couple of months later for the wedding. The wedding is in LA. They're going to come a couple of months later. And so I go and I get my apartment and we start paying off things and building, our home as a couple. And literally a month before my wedding, my mom passed away from a heart attack. And so it affected my dad because they were at a bishop and pastors conference in Indianapolis. And my mom was sitting in the back, and the pastors and the bishops were having the question was, what is the difference between praise and worship? And there were some bishops and pastors that were answering the question for the people that had paid for the seminar. And my mom, she just wasn't satisfied with the answers. She's a graduate, a PhD from a Fuller Seminary.
Wow.
So she was just not content with their answers.
Acceptable.
And she just said, she raised her hand and she said, hey, can I address this? And so all of the bishops started smiling because they knew who she was. And they were like, sure, First Lady, please come and, share. And she shared in her heart what she thought the difference between praise and worship was. And then she went and she sat down and she died.
In the church?
In the conference. She died as soon as she sat down. My dad can see her, and he sees her eyes fix, roll, and he sees her slump, and he says, oh, no, I know this is not, because he's a doctor, and he's a cardiologist, he knows exactly what's happening. And he was like, I know this is not happening. And so, of course, just first nature, he gets up to try to resuscitate his own wife, and he can't. And so it becomes very, very overwhelming because he's trying and he's trying and he's trying. And then the paramedics come, and so some of the other bishops, they're like, Gene, the paramedics is here, come on. And so they literally have to pull him off of her. So it was a devastating scene. And I often ask God, why wasn't I there for that? Why 3 months, and then the month after, the month right before my wedding, she leaves, but I was there for almost 8 months. So why didn't that happen, while I was there? And I just feel like God, in his wisdom, knew you probably really couldn't handle that. So, but it turned into a devastating time where I was trying to celebrate life and mourn death at the same time. And it just turned into a ministry tool for me to be able to help people that are going through a rough time, but also maybe millionaires, maybe suffered a loss of a husband, but just had a new baby, So it really did help me to build my ministry. I gained a lot of weight. I gained like 45 pounds in a year. And so my dad, after we, buried my mom and we had the wedding and all of that, he went back to Ohio, and then he came back to visit just to check on us and see how we were doing. And he saw me and he was like, what's going on with you? I've always been kind of very tiny, I'm only 5'1", but I gained 45 pounds. I was 145 and I went up to 185, almost 190. And my dad was like, if you don't lose that weight, you're not going to be here long. And he was still, shocked, with my mom. So I felt like he was kind of, over the top with it. But he was like, no. He was like, you're 5'1", your frame can't handle that much weight. And so I realized that although I just went into ministry and went into singing and, went into being a wife, it did affect me, and it affected me, and food was my vice. And so when he said that and I saw the concern in his eyes, I felt overwhelmed, and I was just like, okay, I have to get it together. And so I did. I went on a journey of losing weight and getting my mind right, and now being able to really help other people in those same areas. So yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
How did your music and your writing contribute to the journey of now losing the weight and getting healthy, and that shift in your mind?
My songs are always, and I was just talking about this to my family on Zoom. For whatever reason, my songs are always birthed out of the rough times. And I'm like I'll wake up in the morning and I'm like, just writing, and God is just flowing, and these songs are coming out like, I worship you no matter what I'm going through, because you're faithful and you're good, and I'm hurting, but this, and I was like, I just one day can one of my songs just be because I'm happy or because I'm on the mountaintop, you know what I mean?
Right. I don't live through the pain of giving
Right,
birth to a song.
to birth a song, you know, can I do a happy ballad once? But I feel like that's where that came from, was the yearning and the groaning of the loss of my mom. Me and my mom were very close. That's where I get a lot of my spirituality from. I went with her everywhere. She was a very spiritual woman. She had prayer breakfasts. She taught Sunday school. She was the first lady, so she had a lot of the women come to her home and just have like intimate time, and where everyone else was at the mall and, you know, doing whatever, I was always right underneath all these spiritual women. And so she birthed prayer in me, and a lot of times when I'm praying, that's when the lyrics will come. And so I always feel her with me. I always feel, you know, that whole experience of she knew. And it was her choice, you know. She was like, me and God got a thing going on, you know. So it was her choice to go. And I often feel like what a powerful relationship to have with God, to where you can be like, okay, I'm ready. And he'll be like, oh, you sure? You know, let me give you a few months. And she was like, no, I'm good. And then, you know, just say what she feels in her heart, because worship was very passionate to her. Say what she feels to all these bishops and pastors within the Bible Belt, and then just sit down and be like, okay, I'm done. And just leave.
I said my piece.
Yes, I said my piece and I'm ready to go. Wow. And I'm just like, wow, God, like, I have peace with that, you know. And so, yeah, it does kind of flow through me as I'm writing. Now things are a little different, where I'm branching out and kind of pulling on different subjects. You know, I'm older now, so I've lived my own life and had my own experiences. But yeah, that main experience is still very fresh, but it's beautiful to me now. You know, it's beautiful.
But your music is medicine. Again, here I am with the music. and I don't presume at all to know what God is thinking, or to answer your question about why is he always giving you the inspiration through bad times, and your music births through those times. But that's what your part of your destiny clearly is, because your music is going to help people who are in those rough times rise above and hold on and have faith and come through. So, and overcome, as Dr. Moshe was saying. So, you know, music in the medicine. So.
That's my heart's desire. Like, because I've been in the industry since I was like 21, and have been able to grace some of the stages that people long for. You know, we were just blessed to be there and sing at the Grammys many times, and sing with artists like Aretha Franklin and Whitney Houston and Stevie Wonder, and, you know, just all of these heavy hitters we were able to sing with. And I've never taken it for granted, but it also let me know what's important, and that when we go into these places, we're not there just because we can sing. We're there, we're planted. We're planted, and oftentimes when we would open up our mouths, it would be medicine. It would minister to people that we didn't know were going through. We did the American Music Awards with Whitney Houston right before she passed. And she sang, I Didn't Know My Own Strength, and she had on the white dress. And so we're the choir on the stairs. But what people didn't see is in rehearsal, she began to sing, I Love the Lord, and Yes, Jesus Loves Me. And she was like, come on, choir, help me out. She was like, I know y'all churchy. I know y'all from church.
You're a real choir.
Yes, and we had a worship moment in the sound check and the rehearsal the day before. And so when she actually sang for the actual show, and I mean, it was almost like there was nothing going on in rehearsal. Like, her voice was pure. She was in A shape. So when we heard her at the actual show, we were like, this is a completely different Whitney. Like, yesterday she was killing, you know. Now maybe she's a little nervous, or, you know, whatever she might have been dealing with. But when it came to her singing worship songs in rehearsal, it would just be so powerful. And for us to be able to join in that moment, it was a blessed time, and it just let us know we're on assignment whenever we go. And I feel like that anyways, you know, whether it's gospel music at church, worship music, or even secular music. We've done Imagine Dragons. We've sung with Diddy. You know, we've sung. I mean, we've done it all. We are very selective about the people that we minister with. But most of the time, when we got the call, was always an inspirational song, and so there was very rare times that we would have to decline and say, I'm sorry, we can't, you know, because of the lyrics or because of the artist. But we would go in with that frame of mind, be excellent and skillful. So we studied a lot, rehearsed a lot, very professional. But then also we were very aware it's prayer time. And not going in and laying hands with the oil and, just blowing up a whole session with our spirituality. But, as we see and be discerning and we're watching, you're just praying, So, yeah.
And standing, for everyone, absolutely, for all of us with that amazing gift that you have. It's so inspirational. Oh. Are any of your siblings in music?
No. So we all sing. Even my brother, we all sing. But I think I was the only one that kind of went full throttle in it. But yeah, they all can sing. We used to sing, the sisters used to sing as kids. We were the Lundy sisters, and any special program at church, we would sing. But my middle sister is a bodybuilder, and so she went a whole completely different path. And then my older sister, she has a powerful medicine and music kind of, but hers is medicine and animals. So she uses horses for inner healing. So she has a ranch, and a lot of the people in the ministry, pastors, bishops, or kids that need a moment of healing, going through a lot, don't really want to talk about it, or can't really talk about it because they're the actual pastor, and they just need a safe haven to get away. She has a ranch that has all these amazing horses and animals, and they minister healing to the people. And she shows how interaction, and she teaches how interaction with animals can soothe and heal the soul.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a whole form of therapy. Formally, they're actually saying you can cuddle with a cow.
Yes,
Things of that
absolutely.
nature.
I just bought a pit bull. I just bought a pit bull, and I love him so. I've never had a big dog before. Most of my dogs were small and female, and so this time I was just like, on something different. So I went and got this pit bull, blue pit bull, a puppy, only 3.5 months, and he is like literally growing 5,000 pounds a day. And I was like, stop growing. What have I done? What did I do?
Slow down.
What did I realize? Yes. But just the hugest heart, and just loves to cuddle, loves to play, loves, just soothing, very soothing.
There's a real misconception. Pit bulls are very affectionate.
They are, and they love the attention. That's they like. Even in the morning, when I come and I let him out the gate, the first thing he'll do is just jump on me and just start licking my hands and my legs, like, good morning. And I'm like, oh, good morning. Just very, very passionate about love, giving love, and
unconditional.
Unconditional.
Totally.
So I love that as well.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I love that we're all on assignment. I mean, that pearl that you dropped there, I think, is something that guides or should guide all of our lives, to think that that's what we are. And it's so clear that your music marries that together so well with your life, and that you are, and that you do embody this healing, giving, and helping people spiritually, sincerely. It's not just, this is a business and I can do well at it. It really comes from the heart. So thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
We finally got a chance
so much. I have really enjoyed this.
Sure.
Has it? Yes.
Yeah. Thank you guys so
Great.
much.
It finally came together.
Yes, it did. Thank you guys. You guys have been a pleasure.
So have you. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure, thank you. Sure, absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Okay.